It was an early noon when Applejack was at the barn to do some work when she heard Applebloom, Scootaloo, and Sweetabelle just arrived at the farm. She could hear that they were talking about something like a footprints, strange footprints, just outside the farm. She called her attention to that. She walked up to them. She asked Applebloom what kind of footprints they are talking about. Applebloom and Sweetabelle said that they have no idea what kind of animal had made these strange footprints. Applejack even asked where they found these strange footprints. They explained that they had left the clubhouse and walked through the fort on the apple orchards, and just outside the tree line, they saw these footprints, or at least some sort of strange tracks. It was walking along along the fence, but just they had never seen anything like it. So Applejack said, if there was a strange animal nearby, it would be best for them to stay at the farm, just to be safe. She even told Big Mac about these strange footprints, and she told him that make sure that Applebloom, Scootaloo, and Sweetabelle are at the farm and perhaps most inside doors when she returns. She was going to look at its footprints and to see and we figure out what kind of animal had made this, unless it's some sort of very bad prank. After that, she walks through the apple orchard, past the clubhouse, and along the fence, and very much sure it was on strange footprints, or at least she believed kind of footprints. But when she saw them, it was very strange. She can immediately rule out there was no bear, no dragon, or any other creatures that she knows about. But then she thought, what about if this could have been a timber wolf? After all, timber wolves has ability to increase their own size by adding some more branches of trees and all like that. But after figuring out something, after she tried trying to remember exactly how a timber wolf track looked like, and it was not like that. So there was no way it could have been a timber wolf. But then she realized this couldn't have been a timber wolf. After all, timber wolves are not so that common outside, so far away from every forest. After all, the farm lies quite far from the forest, and there has never been any sighting about the timber wolves so far away from the forest at all. But she had no idea what kind of made these tracks. So she decided to follow the tracks along the fence just to see if this was just some prank. But as she followed, the tracks just continued and continued. She walked for several minutes, but after a while, after a bit of while following it, it just continued. It has passed long away past the family, the Sweet Apple Acres property, and has slowly walking far from it. She had no idea what it was kind of doing. She had no idea how far these tracks could go, when suddenly she saw Rainbow Dash at in the air. She asked her if she can see how far these tracks was going, and she would ask her if she had seen any animal or anything had made these tracks. But Rainbow said that she hasn't been there that long. She has just arrived at this particular spot, and she has no idea who made these tracks. But she did mention that the tracks were going a little bit further away, more deeper to some small forest area. That is what she could see. Applejack thanked Rainbow for her help, and she decided to follow the tracks even further. As she walked to this small clearing of forest nearby, she has no idea what she expected to find. But suddenly, the tracks was gone. It was like the tracks had just stopped. A strange adjustable tracks had appeared, but this one was not unlike footprints though. It was just straight lines of two lines next to each other. She had no idea what kind of made this tracks, but she decided to follow them as well, only for a moment, when those tracks just also disappeared and another footprints started walking appeared again. And this time, they were only a short way from a small cave nearby that she knew about. She decided to go there and just explore, maybe find out what made these tracks. When she arrived to the cave, she decided to go in there, just only for a short bit to see if she can find or perhaps even hear anything. But when she walks in, only about a few feet inside, she sees this yellow box thing made of metal just standing there on four wheels. She had no idea what kind of thing this is. As she was just looking at it, she really just talked to herself, what kind of thing is this? And why would anyone put this here? In a cave of all places? I put myself here. Applejack looked around and since she heard a voice, but she couldn't even pinpoint exactly where the voice came from. Who are you? And where are you? I'm in front of you. And who are you? And how can you talk? Applejack realized it was the thing in front of her who's just been talking. Applejack had been seeing so much over her adventures with her friends, but this takes the most of all the odd things. She believed this could have been some sort of magical artifact, or at least a magical object. She asked for his name, or at least if it had a name. He said his name was Bumblebee, and she said that her name was Applejack. Once again he asked how she can talk. She explained that every pony in this kingdom can talk. That surprised him because he asked, what kingdom? After that, she asked him if he can come outside so that she has a bit, so that she can see him better, which he obliged. And then, well outside, she stepped away when she heard a strange sound, and he somehow changed from this strange cart, or at least some sort of wagon or something, to a much taller, two-legged creature made of metal. But he sat down and that she could see directly through his face. She was a bit scared, but she was even more curious about this. After several minutes of talking, she realized how about this much more. They had asked each other questions, and even had answered some of their own. It turned out that Bumblebee is an alien creature by the name Autobot from an alien planet by the name Cybertron. From what Applejack could really understand, he was in a battle against an enemy, which somehow he was transported and must have ended up in this kingdom or in this realm or in this world without know exactly how. But after he realized this weird transport which he expected to be almost responsible on the so-called space bridge, or at least a space bridge. That was the only thing that he could realize was causing how he ended up in this particular strange world. But after that, they had been talking for nearly half of a day. And after that, Applejack realized, as they had almost talked for so long, The sun was about to get down, and she was about to get back. Before Applejack could do so, Bumblebee had only one request: that she doesn't tell anyone about his existence and exactly where he's located, because he had no idea how other creatures or other ponies will react that he is there. She realized that he has a point. Consider from how many other creatures have been appeared, like a huge dragon would appeared, but she had promised not to reveal exactly what it was. So when she came back to the farm, Apple Bloom had asked her if she had found what made these tracks, but Applejack made as a promise to Bumblebee, and she said, "No, I followed the tracks as far as I could, but I couldn't find anything that could make those tracks." So Applejack had not only lied to her own sister, but this was only for best thing, because the next day Applejack went back to the cave, and she talked to Bumblebee more about these things. She tried to convince him maybe that it was allowed for her to bring some of her close friends go back to meet him. At first, Bumblebee was not accepting of this. He was not exactly happy about the idea, but he mentioned that he has no idea how they react. But she promised him that they will accept and even respect that not tell any pony about his secret. It is about his existence. So he agreed. So later that day, Applejack went to the Ponyville and talked to her friends. At first, she didn't even mention why, but she only said that she wanted to say what she wanted to show them something, but she didn't want to tell exactly what it was. Only it was something unique. So they all agreed to meet at the Sweet Apple Acres by the next day around noon. And the rest of that day, Applejack was just curious, wondering how her friends react to see Bumblebee. And early next morning, Applejack was getting ready to carry on her chores when Big Mac appeared and saying that her friends was there waiting for her. She said thanks, and he asked if he could take care of the rest of her chores. She promised to take care of his by the next day, and he agreed. They went along the fence to this small cave and the small forest nearby. So when they were standing outside, she called into the opening and said, "Bumblebee, you can come out now." And suddenly, this strange yellow wagon just rolling out from the cave opening, and her friends were just surprised to see this. And they thought maybe, is this a magical wagon of some kind? But then, suddenly, Bumblebee changed into this big creature. Fluttershy, though, she was at first scared, but she was so curious. She even walks up to him and asks, "How is he so tall? And is he a living creature?" But he said that he isn't. After that, he had explained everything to her friends. They were just all shocked. They even looked at Applejack and asked if she knew about him. She said yes, but this is the one thing that she wanted to tell them, or to show them. They were really surprised that she had known about this, but she said she has only known about Bumblebee for only about 2 days. This is the reason why she hasn't told any pony at all about it. She didn't want to start a mass panic, because if ponies would know about it, there is no way to tell for sure about how the public react. Ponies would probably say there was a new invasion of this strange robotic life form appeared in Ponyville, or at least in Equestria. and Twilight may have thought this was a good idea not to tell the public at the moment, but they decided maybe it was best to keep this a secret for the time being. So they all decided to spend the day there, talked with Bumblebee, get to know him better, but unfortunately, his existence was revealed to the public only about a week later when a pony, a pegasi, saw this strange creature, or at least strange thing, in the forest below her. And if she had told her friends this by themselves, she probably would not have been believed. But she wasn't alone. Two other ponies were with her at the same time, and they all saw the same thing. Soon the entire public was aware about this strange creature. Applejack and her friends had just immediately had to went to see him. They were on their way to stop him from being captured, just in case of that. They could oblige for him, saying that he's not a creature of danger. He has only been there on accident. Luna and Celestia, they thought about this, and they believed Applejack. After all, Applejack is the element of honesty. And soon it all ran Applejack about her true secret before Bumblebee had come out to the public. At first the public was a little bit scared, but after seeing how much Bumblebee was helping the public with some things, like helping to rebuild the hospital, or even perhaps helping to transport things without they had to be tiring him out, and after all, the public started to like him. But it was only one thing though. Applejack and Bumblebee had started getting more closer good friends. But then it was one thing one that changed altogether. Only during a few months later, during the fall, when this winter was supposed to arrive, Applejack had started to feel a bit low, had felt ill, and she decided maybe it was maybe best not to do some any heavy work at the farm. And only a few days later, the winter had arrived to Ponyville. But Applejack's condition didn't even get better. She was having the flu, and she will find out that the cure to this particular flu was so low in the hospital supplies, and they couldn't even spare any of it to Applejack because there were other patients of the same flu who had a more serious condition. They would be able to give her some of it only if her condition was only getting worse. And after that, as the time went, Applejack's condition was only getting even worse because she was barely eating. She was her fever was getting higher and higher, and hospital in Ponyville supplies was getting lower and lower. There was only thing that not could happen though, because one day all the flu medicine supplies was gone, and there was still very much ponies that still suffered. Applejack had asked Appleblom if she could talk to Bumblebee, go to Canterlot to bring this medicine with him, because it turned out the train was stopped because of the lack of snow on a lot of snow on the tracks, and the train was stuck in it. It would take them hours of getting through that. So Bumblebee agreed to go to his train to pick up some of the medicine and bring it back to the Ponyville. She decided that he did that, and after all, he was a hero. He had helped so many in Ponyville, including Applejack and her family at the farm. Bumblebee managed to ride the train, and they load over at least a few boxes of this cure to Bumblebee and he drove off to Plumia Hospital. And he even was given a few bottles of his medicine to Applejack. Only a few days later, Applejack's condition was getting better, and from that moment, Applejack called Bumblebee as a true friend. Not only that he had made this a true friend, only saving her from getting sicker, he had saved a lot of more ponies in town. Only a few days later, the worst cases of this flu was over, and the hospital's doctors and nurses thanked Bumblebee for his help, because they had no idea how long the train would have been stuck in that amount of snow. But Applejack, she was just happy that Bumblebee was there to help her, and that was made them true friends. Even after that, Bumblebee understood that he would no longer be unable to go back to his own dimension. But he was happy to have a good friend in this particular world. But not only that, he even saw Applejack as a sister, a true friend. That was the reason was made them true friends in the first place. Because they both was honest. They both helped each other and others in no matter what happened. Applejack. She had even told the Bumblebee she was really happy to have him as a friend, but now has the ability to call him a true friend. And this is how Applejack and Bumblebee became true friends. The end.